Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the video. We're going to be discussing Pascal, because there has been an update regarding Pascal. We do know, of course, the GPU is going to launch in 2016, and there have been some pieces of information that have been revealed by Nvidia themselves. So we're going to be doing a kind of overview of what Pascal will mean for PCs, where Nvidia are likely going with this, and more specifically, the actual specifications, at least what we know so far. Unfortunately, we don't know things such as the number of CUDA cores the GPU is going to have, but we do know some stuff. For example, it's going to feature high bandwidth memory too. It's going to be stacked up to 4 stacks, which means we're going to have up to 1 terabyte per second of memory bandwidth. That's a lot of memory bandwidth, by the way. It is still built on 16FF manufacturing process, and I say still built because that fact hasn't changed. We've suspected that for some time now, and it is going to be TSMC. We're handling that. We reported that a while back. Now, to give you an idea of the immense scale of this graphics card, GM200 isn't small. It really isn't. I mean, when you're dealing with a GPU that's kind of over 1 billion transistors, that's a lot. But the Pascal features 17 billion. Now, that's twice the number of GM200, just to give you an idea of the immensity of this bloody thing. It's absolutely huge. Now, as I mentioned, it's still going to feature the 4 HBM2 stacks, which means 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Now, the rumors are that 32 gigabyte, or the insight is 32 gigabytes for the professional variant. However, there is some wiggle room regarding cards such as the Titan and how they fall into the spectrum. One can argue that Titan, and potentially the equivalent of the 980 Ti, could potentially have 32 gigabytes, but obviously that's pure speculation on my part, and I'm not putting words in Nvidia's mouth. The GP100 chip is effectively the direct successor to the GM200. Therefore, you can consider it going to be featured in the GTX 980s of the world, and it is going to be fully DirectX 12.1 compatible. Now, there was actually a lot of, I guess you could say, confusion a while back, because everyone thought that the successor to Maxwell was going to be Volta, but that slipped. So Volta is now going to be 2018, whereas Pascal is now, well, I say now, but next year. Now, the really interesting point about this is that we're going to see considerable improvements to compute. In fact, we obviously are going to discuss NVLink in just a moment, but it also supports mixed precision FP16 compute tasks. That's twice the rate of FP32, and does support full FP64 as well. Now, if you've probably thought to yourself, well, gee, that sounds an awful lot like compute is going to be a big part of Pascal. It is. We have mentioned this previously, but I just want to reiterate this. First of all, it is going to support unified virtual memory. Now, you kind of know what that is, but effectively, you could think of it as 2 glasses of water. Normally, on a PC, and most consoles, well, the PlayStation 3, not the Xbox 360, but you could think of the memory of the CPU and memory of the GPU as 2 separate glasses. So in other words, you fill one up and that's it. So the memory of the GPU and the memory of the CPU are totally different. The difference between that and virtual or unified memory is that, in essence, the data is the same memory pool, therefore the GPU can access the same as the CPU, and the CPU can access the memory of the GPU, and it can be greatly more effective, particularly in situations where you're dealing with a lot of compute-orientated tasks. Now, unified memory support will mean that they will be able to share the same address pool, but that doesn't help any if you're dealing with crappy speeds. So NVLink here is the thing that's going to help, because we're dealing with considerably higher bandwidth. How much more bandwidth? Well, about 5 to 12 times is what we know. That's compared to a PCIe Gen 3. So, you know, we're looking at several, maybe 80 to 200 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth, which is pretty damn impressive. And it can mean that GPUs are going to finally be able to really leverage compute-orientated tasks. It's not so much of a problem now, as most GPUs, to be frankly honest with you, aren't, I guess you could say they're not really pushing the PCs to the limit, the bandwidth to the limit, and therefore you can even have like a high-end GPU on a slower generation PCIe, and generally it's fine, you won't lose that much frames per second. The snag, however, is that it's only going to be utilized for servers and high-power solutions. It's not necessarily going to be PCs that you and I can buy. In other words, a regular desktop system, that's the best way to put it. I have a feeling it will eventually crop up, but it's just not going to be for now. So most of the stuff is going to be for like high-end compute stuff. So although it's kind of cool, and it is nice it's there, I have a feeling that some of the stuff is either going to be maybe for Volta for desktop, or potentially maybe integrated in the distant future. It's just too difficult to know at the moment. In essence, you can say that Pascal is the logical successor to both Maxwell and even AMD's GPUs, because it is featuring high bandwidth memory too. So we're still going to see the small PCBs and high performance memory, but it's going to get rid of the limitations of 4 GB, which of course were rampant on the R9 Fury series, which AMD are going to be doing the same thing, but it's just kind of like the next evolution of chips. And to be honest with you, I'm really excited about the stuff. I really am. I think that next year in the PC market, I've said this a billion times now, but I genuinely believe next year the PC market's really going to come into its own with the technologies which are going to be released. The key word is efficiency. The systems are going to be a lot more efficient with the way they handle data, but they're also going to have a considerable amount more grunt behind them than what they do now, and with better APIs such as DirectX 12, and obviously in the case of Pascal it's going to have much higher DirectX 12 support. Hopefully the asynchronous shaders, he says jokingly, are going to be resolved. It's going to be kind of cool, at least in my opinion. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'm going to get going because I've been editing pretty much all day with my reviews, so I'm going to escape. But for now, take care, and if you could like, subscribe, that type of thing, that would be greatly appreciated. Take care, bye for now.